Kumsiban taban ay jingkai nalor ban yamir jingmut halor ki mat ki pede ba ka Jingkylla jong ka Mariang nalor ki we ka Lidikin College lingba ka internal quality assurance cell IQAC haringkat ka jingat lang ka North East Society for Agroecology support NESFAS ka Meghalaya Climate Change Center bat ka Meghalaya Basin Development Authority MBDA hakakat kandai trigul ber arja arpusaw kalapli perdayak international conference kam workshop ka ba arsngi halor ka phang climate change indigenous knowledge system and food sovereignty kabala penlong hapo ka auditorium Jingkylla College. Hakani ka Jingkylla lawan banya simbanta daw ba prang roy u founder ka NESFAS ubalong kumukong san haringkat ka jiadon lang udrupa Chaudhry senior advisor ka NESFAS u principal ka college u Dr. Klur Mukim kinohikai ki samla puli nolor kiwe. Hakani ka sngi la yoro ika Snem ka kentu na ki samla puli hakadur jong jingrai ka bapen iya ka jinglalot u benriu ban perkhat tangya ka maladi bat ka bapen saja pat ya baro ki jing thaw em baken thopru ya ka mai Mariang Henry kani ka bu pat ya ka lawai u benriu hi haka jingma Baijing kran na kalyang udrupa Chaudhry ula batai benya hakabaya day bat ki mat ki pakta eka Jingkylla ka Mariang bat kentui ki samla bementa bakin longkum ki nong Wanrah Jingkylla ki ban pen bahabyang ya ke bala dam ke bala bakla.
Today what I'm going to try and do is share the knowledge that I have gathered not so much from academic books but from listening to farmers, listening to rural people and seeing how they manage things. Right? So what I would be sharing is more a learning from those people and not so much, and then applying what I understand from my academic background and seeing what is the scientific rationale behind what they do. It wasn't until 1988 when the World Meteorological Organization and the United Nations Environment Program recognized that there were changes which are happening to the global temperatures, the global warming was happening, and there were changes, serious impacts which were happening. So they were the ones who set up what is known as the Intergovernment Panel on Climate Change. This was established in 1998 and 1998, and it was approved and ratified by the UN system, and that became a body recognized throughout the world and by nations as well. And the job of the IPCC was to inform governments about changes in the climate, in global climate, what was happening, what the possible impacts were, and what could happen in future, the ramifications, not just in terms of the environment, but in terms of social and economic aspects. It wasn't until about a decade back that the IPCC reports finally started making an impact and government started taking it seriously. They also realized that we have very little time to take action. We hardly have a decade, and this is the decade which is running now. We actually, today, we have hardly 6 years to take action. So it's that serious. If we don't, then we are going to reach tipping points and there will be irreversible impacts of climate change, which means we are going to be in serious crisis unless we take action. There was also a recognition that while IPCC has been doing this work and is talking about models, there hasn't been, these were global models, and you required what is known as downscaling. Forest management is another aspect that we need to learn, and the governance aspects, right? I think these are very important lessons that the indigenous people can offer to the rest of the world and thereby help in reducing or at least arresting the impacts of climate change. And more to offer to the rest of the world than the Western world has to give to us. And that's something that we have got to be proud of and say that, look, we are no longer recipients. We can also contribute, we can also give. And with the young students here, this is what you need to become. Tomorrow, you need to be the champions and change agents so that we can reverse what we have done in Frank and my generation. But you become the champions to change that. Thank you very much.
Uba prang roy habakran hakani gasngi ulayu thu halor ka jingkyll jong ka jingsha kata aki bor Mariang na ka Jingkylla ka sunbenang ka Jingkylla ka Mariang ka bakta bat Wanrah ru ya ka jingdok bat kata ru ya ki patba jong ka than bat ka parthai hi bro ka wai.
When climate-induced poverty, suffering and injustice affect an unacceptable percentage of our own people and of the global population, will we rely, as we did in the past, on silver bullets, particularly on artificial intelligence, on which we who come from the Northeast have no data on which we can build our future with it? Or are we going to live in a world where biodiversity is very important? Where do these fit in our schemes of things? And I think as we study and as we have this workshop, these are questions that we need to ask. But more important, can we look and can we spot some unique lessons of resilience that we have never noticed in the past in our lives? Some of those options Drupal has highlighted in his presentation today. And as scientists, we look for evidence when we talk and share ideas. It was because of that in 2021, TIP, the organization that I lead in Rome, we decided that we will try to create and find the evidence that is required for the purpose of demonstrating to the scientific world and to policymakers that indigenous people are game changers. We looked for different methodologies and settled on a methodology that FAO had developed, what they call it as TAPE. And we undertook in the last 1 year a survey of 500 households in Meghalaya, in northern Thailand, in Kenya, and in Mexico. And in the process of doing that, we trained about 100 young people in these 4 countries to undertake that study. The report has been written, but we have the data. And the data, as expected, pinpointed quite clearly that indigenous food systems are game changers towards a more nature-based food system. The study highlighted that these systems support and are supported by high traditional social values, values of women empowerment, values of youth empowerment, and practices of labor exchange. That these systems that we often do not consider as part of the physical work that we do, these are actually the foundations of the food systems and the foundation of a climate resilient world.
Hadien, pej bahagi kishab plus F.
Ka plus F?
Hakabam bangibam dunaki eki bataya kamet. Namar kata habathiru atau kau kamlu ka umpnyang kadut pej ya kishab plus F haka jingsom. Yaki nutrient kumki vitamin bat ka iron la ikan diat bada ka bathau bha kam kata ikadur jingki marbam ka jingmat lani ka rukom shed yaki.
Balehi panai kita.
Kadon ka we ka jing mentoy ba kongsan. Ka kot ka kia. Ka nutrition ba khambha ka jing im ba khambha pendon kam daki marba medon ka sharp plus F menta kasni.
Wanrah shapi lingba ko office jong commissionerate of food safety Meghalaya.